All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the article, Effects on Children's Participation, Mental Health, and Psychosocial Development article. We'll talk about that first. What did you get from that article, and what were your main takeaways? If you want to bring out your notes and write and look at some of your notes that you wrote for your reflection, but what were some of your main takeaways?
Saw that people kind of treat them differently socially, even some adults treat them differently if they're overweight.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of sad.
So just prejudices toward people that are overweight or obese, and just having preconceived, stereotypes of them. Okay, anything sticks out?
I know something. I think it was like women were like 3 times more likely to have like less friends and like less social interactions based on their weight.
Okay, so very isolation. Varied isolation. People can be isolated. Okay.
I was just enlightened about how important social support is.
Right.
It affects somebody. It can affect somebody negatively, but also very positively as well.
Right. Yeah.
You got to pay attention to who you're hanging out with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having a close-knit circle that is a positive circle is really important, especially if you are working with an individual who is overweight or obese, or if you're trying to help someone lose weight. Getting them around people that are positive is really important. The people that are going to help them and also encourage them to eat maybe healthier, but not at the same time really kind of, make them feel low or make them feel ashamed of themselves, that type of thing. Because we know some people can have that effect on each other. People write negative posts, right? Like someone might write have like a picture like, oh, look at what I did in 2 weeks. I had a really good, progress. I've lost so much weight. And then you might have one negative person who's like, oh, it doesn't look like you've lost that much weight. And then that someone might just be doing that just to get you, but that can really put someone down. And that happens a lot of times. Okay, you can feel really isolated if that's you. And so everyone's going to get social negative feedback. And if you get a lot of positive feedback from your circle, that's going to be really important. So that's a good point. What about for you?
Just how they're less active in participation because of their body weight, but then that makes them even more likely to be victimized for their weight by not participating.
Right.
But
yeah.
It's something.
Okay. Nice. What about for you?
I thought it was interesting the researchers said that the rates for bullying regarding weight was higher than like race, religion, and disability.
Yeah.
I was like, big takeaway from it.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and if you've ever been bullied before, I have 3 older brothers, so I know what it's like to be bullied because of just the fact of growing up. And I mean, not, to the point where it was really bad, but I know what it's like to get bullied. I've been bullied on a bus before. I've been bullied in school before. I've been bullied in the locker room before by older people. So I know what it's like to feel bullied, but imagine having that kind of probably twice as much if I was overweight, or maybe 3 times as much if I was overweight. So instead of maybe 5 horrible, thoughts I have, maybe someone that's overweight or obese is going to have 30 really negative thoughts from high school, where I might have like, oh, I remember that one time in the locker room when I got bullied, but it wasn't about my weight. Maybe it was just because he was picking on me, because he was older, that type of thing. Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. But imagine getting picked on because of the way you look, or because of your size. So that's going to really put someone in a shadow. So good reflections there. What we're going to talk about next is week 10. So we're going to talk about preventative measures, interventions, and applications. We'll talk about what the CDC recommends next week, and we're going to kind of go over preventative measures and really kind of wrapping things up because you'll be presenting in the following weeks. Okay, so your annotated bibliography, which is due in a couple weeks here, you'll make sure that those references and citations come from articles that are evidence-based, peer-reviewed through UNCW Randall Library, Scholar Google. You can locate them there. And then also using .org or .edu or .gov as a website as also a resource. For the annotated bibliography, you're going to create 5 bibliographies or summaries of an article in your own words. Try not to just copy and paste an abstract. So you're going to write in your own words a summary of this article, and then you're going to write the APA references. So there is a link that you can go to and watch a video of me explaining it, and then there's also a video of another person who is a writer explaining how to create an annotated bibliography. So use the information that you're going to be presenting on. Obviously, you want to look at the research that you're presenting on. Like, for instance, have you thought of a topic yet? Yeah?
Physical education. And then I picked, obviously, the US, and then I think I'm going to do Hungary as other country.
Okay. So you're looking at physical education and participation in Hungary compared to the United States. Okay, so you might find a couple articles from the CDC, just looking at the current statistics. That might help you summarize what that's about. You might talk about physical activity and education and its prevalence, and maybe where it is and where it isn't in the United States, find an article on that. And then obviously looking into Hungary and then pointing it down. And then what your research will basically tell you when you look at the presentation for the rubric, what you need to do, what you need to know. So you feel pretty confident about that?
Yeah.
About that? Okay. What about for you? Any?
The like effects of how media,
Okay.
like for food advertisement half year based I think I did like 3 countries in Europe. I think it was like Sweden and Norway
Cool.
and maybe Finland. It was like 3 of those.
Cool. What, have you found anything so far that's interesting, or are you still just digging into it?
Well, they're all 3 like super healthy compared to here.
Their media advertising is a lot more healthy than it is here, than it is Doritos and chips.
Yeah.
And yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I can see that. That'll be interesting. What about, have you thought of any?
Yeah, I'm looking at nutrition education
Okay,
in the US and Japan.
nice. And theirs is maybe a little better or
It's
different?
a lot different.
Okay,
Yeah, and they only had a 4% obesity rate in 2016.
yeah,
Compared
Japan,
to like 36%.
yeah, and they drink a lot of green tea. They do drink a lot of green tea. It's the only way you can get ECG with it. I think that's what it is. It's a potent antioxidant. They also have the lowest risk of lung cancer, and they have a lot of smokers there. So
Yeah, Norway was like 12%. They only have 12% of obesity.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but
I'm also doing food advertisement in Norway and US.
Cool, nice. Anything you found
I
significant so
found
far?
some studies saying that Norway's advertisement was almost none. I found one study saying it was like for like unhealthy foods.
Oh,
And they
okay.
promote
They don't
they have
promote
regulations.
unhealthy. Yeah,
on what they can advertise to children
Right.
in regards to unhealthy foods.
yeah. Who oversees like all that, right? The media, who oversees that? Does government have a say on what can and cannot be in media, right? You can't advertise certain things, right, on TV. I think liquor, or can you, yeah, you can promote liquor on TV now. I'm not sure. Is that?
I think you can.
I think you can. But for a long time it wasn't. I think liquor specifically was not on advertising. I think they maybe changed that rule. So some things can kind of come and go, but that's interesting. What about?
Food deserts in the US and Great Britain.
Okay, and anything significant that you found so far?
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really looked that much into it yet.
Okay, still scraping the surface. Yeah, and if you have any questions, just reach out, email me. We'll try to work out something, and that's for the people that are watching asynchronous too. If you have questions about that, we can talk through that. Okay. So because you're going to be working on your presentations and your annotated bibliography, the reflections and the asynchronous work isn't going to be that heavy. You're going to go back into HBO's Way of the Nation, and you're going to finish up part 2 for this and next week's homework as far as your reflection goes. Today we're going to talk about preventative measures and kind of where do we go from here as far as obesity is concerned. All right, so preventing childhood obesity, we'll review a couple things and then we'll we'll talk about some preventing measures. So obviously we've talked about a lot of this before, but obesity results from the excessive caloric intake, decreased energy expenditure, and or from a combination of the two. So increased calories, sedentary behavior is the probable cause of most obesity or overweight issues. So obesity is a major public health problem across the world. It's not just here in the United States, right? It has grown throughout the world. Most of the affluent population has been in a slight positive energy balance over the past 10 to 15 years. Okay, and that's probably longer. It's probably the last 20 years now that we've been in a positive energy balance, whereas before we weren't, right? It really wasn't until what, the 70s and 80s and the packaging of foods after the Industrial Revolution, the World Wars, we were starting to package foods for the military, and then we were like, oh wow, we can package foods and we can sell these on shelves, and now we can create other foods that we can do the same thing to, and now we're gonna add calories to these foods, and we're gonna add all these, extra sugars or whatever it may be. Gradual weight gain of up to 1 kilogram a month can be produced by a very small degree of a positive energy balance of 50 calories per day. So even if you're over just 50 calories per day, you can gain a pound of weight, okay? Or 2.2 pounds of weight. Decreased physical activity as technology and urbanization promotes sedentary lifestyle. So obviously now that we are online, we're less likely to go to campus, which means we're less likely to walk from one place to another, which means that we have to actually push ourselves more now during a pandemic, during COVID, to get out and at least go outside and walk. If we're not coming to class or if we're not able to go to class, we still need to find a way to get out and move, because we've been so kind of really told to really not go anywhere, not do anything, not see anybody, and all those things that we were doing, like going to the beach with people, going to the mall, going to all these movies, whatever it may be, was physical activity, really. Now we're kind of, I think, even more decreased. So remarkably short history for caloric beverages. Might the absence of compensation relate to this historical evolution? So if you look here, you can't really see it here, but you have the pre-Homo sapiens where we're kind of just evolving here, and then we go into 200,000 BC to 10,000 BC. The origin of humans, or when humans really started to develop in culture. And then we have from here, modern beverage era, 10,000 BC to present. And then as you see, it begins with milk. And until then, it was just water and breast milk all the way to this modern era of 10,000 BC. So from 10,000 BC until now, we weren't introduced to anything but water and breast milk. Okay, think about that. No added beverages until 10,000 years ago, until we started creating substances to drink, right? Our body is 70% water, okay? We need water. That should be our main source of liquid, or liquid calories, because if we do have things like soda, fruit juice, and milk, it's going to add calories, right? So we have from 10,000 BC, then we have, I'd say about 9,000 here, we have milk introduction. 8,000 BC, we have water, beer, and juice, okay? Wine, it says wine is also at 5,400 BC, beer also at 4,000 BC, maybe they fermented it in a little bit different way. I'm not sure why they would have two dots, but then you look here and we look at present day. We look at 2004 U.S. soda intake, 52 grams. Okay, U.S. coffee intake, juice concentrate, milk, Coca-Cola, liquor, coffee, lemonade. Okay, all these different things just started happening in the past. What we have 200 years, okay? So really all this stuff has really occurred in the past century, if you look at it in an evolutionary standpoint when it comes to caloric beverages, okay? That is just one theory. Okay, implications for children and society. You have physical, now we know we have social, right? And emotional health consequences. it's not just about cardiovascular disease, stroke, diabetes, risk for cancer, risk for this, risk for that. Like that, what about not having any friends? What about not, maybe getting picked on, maybe going through depression because you're fluctuating weight and you can't maybe keep those habits, because you have cravings, or you're not getting any positive support. So physical health, glucose intolerance and insulin resistance, we talked about that. Type 2 diabetes. Now we know that all has something to do with sugar levels in the blood, and we've talked about that. Hypertension, so higher blood pressure. Dyslipidemia, okay, having a lot of fat tissue. Hepatic steatosis, okay, so that's having liver issues. Cholelithiasis, I'm not sure what that is. You have sleep apnea, and you can have orthopedic problems, okay? So sleep apnea, does anyone know someone that has sleep apnea? Or uses do they use a breathing machine?
Yeah, I've had like some symptoms of it at times, so
Mhm.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, do you know if you're a nostril breather or a mouth breather?
I think I'm a mouth breather.
Okay, so one thing you can do to prevent sleep apnea is getting that nasal passage open, because if you don't breathe through your nose, you'll lose the ability to breathe through that nose, and you can develop sleep apnea that way. So just focusing more on nostril breathing and closing the mouth. Some people go as far as to put tape on their mouth when they sleep. You're not going to suffocate. I'm not prescribing that, but some people go as far as doing that so that they breathe through their nose and train themselves how to breathe through the nose.
Lots of powerlifters have those, their necks get so
Thick.
wide. And
Yeah.
that stuff off.
So, function, powerlifting, you have to weigh, what do you want to, do you want to be able
It's
to,
definitely not about health.
right, yeah, exactly. And at least you,
Act like it is.
yeah, and you understand that though, and that's one thing that people may in that realm not believe in. So, they might either take it to the next level, but if you know that, then you know what the implications are if you continue. Orthopedic problems, heavier weight, having maybe knee or ankle issues because you're having to support more weight, right? You're putting more stress on your joints, unneeded stress. Emotional health, low self-esteem, negative body image, and depression. So dissatisfaction of self is what we talked about, is really that number one thing, is just not feeling good about yourself, right? I think we all felt that way before. You kind of look in the mirror, you look at an old picture, you're like, oh my gosh, wow, look at that picture of me. Now I don't, but you have to kind of really just take things one step, one day at a time, instead of trying to drastically be like, oh, I'm going to get back to my best shape of my life by just not eating for the next 3 days and just seeing if I can lose a bunch of weight, and then that'll get me hopefully on the right track. Well, your body's going to maintain homeostasis better than you think. Your body is always fighting to gain homeostasis. It doesn't like shifting from one extreme to the next, right? So your body is smarter than you. You're gonna make up that lost energy and calories if you don't eat, right? You're gonna get one, you might emotionally be frustrated, right? Oh, I don't get that food, I'm so hungry. So that can cause you to increase adrenaline, increase cortisol, increase sympathetic nervous system, decrease nostril breathing, increase mouth breathing. So you can have all these negative physical effects and also emotional effects due to just maybe not even thinking about it. So depression, negative body image, social health, that stigma we talked about, negative stereotyping, discrimination, teasing and bullying, and social marginalization. So those are all the things I think we've kind of summed up as the implications for children and society. And so it's not just a disease, it's a public health issue. Remember, what is considered to be obese, and this is something to really understand as a physical education teacher, because you're probably going to want to assess your students, you're probably going to want to assess your clients if you're a personal trainer, and you're going to want to give them at least some pure, simple data of where they're at, right? Because this is really the name of the game, and it's all about numbers and calories and calories in, calories out, what your current weight is, how much you want to weigh in the future, what your age is, what your gender is, all that stuff. So it all takes into consideration, okay? You have underweight, healthy weight, overweight, obese, morbidly obese, and super obese. Underweight, 18.5 or up, okay, or 18.5 or lower is underweight. So if you are underweight, you want to get your weight up. Obviously, if you have an eating disorder, you're going to be in the underweight category. Remember, we talked about people that have eating disorders because they have self-dissatisfaction, okay, and we need to get them in the healthy weight, which is 18.5 to 24.9 body mass index. So that's the healthy range that we want to strive for, okay? So overweight, grade 1 obesity, 25.0 to 29.9. Obese, grade 2, 30 to 39.9. Morbidly obese, 40 or above BMI, and super obese, BMI over 50. I've had clients that have been in the 30 to 40 range and almost into the 50 range. I had a client, I think he was at 43, okay, so he's at 43 BMI, and we got him down to, I think, 30 BMI, and he lost 100 pounds, but that took a whole year, and he changed his whole diet, but it was one of those things where when he just focused on what he was eating, and really just was able to crave his appetite, was really when he was making the biggest changes. And he was going through some depression, he was going through some social issues, so I had to be really positive with him, you know. And what we've known as personal trainers is you have to be their buddies, because if you ever become a personal trainer or a phys ed teacher, you're gonna be helping people lose weight, right? Because that's one of the jobs that we have, is helping people reach their goals. So you might be helping a child or a teen or even an adult, maybe your colleague, you might help them lose weight one day. And so understanding where they're at is first important, and then trying to get them to a healthy category for BMI. So obesity most likely results from an interplay between genes and the environment. However, the recent explosion in the prevalence of obesity has occurred too quickly to be explained solely by changes in our genes. One hypothesis is that in the past, humans who were able to accumulate fat when food was plentiful were better able to survive during times of food scarcity. Okay, so now, however, in the US and many other countries, food is plentiful, and foods that are high in calories but often low in nutritional value tend to be relatively inexpensive. So we were genome, our program, to take in calories and hold on to those calories, right? So that's what we needed to do to survive. Now, when we hold on to these calories, we're getting empty calories that are calorie deficient. Furthermore, most people engage in far less physical activity than did previous generations. So never have we ever sit as much as we've sit before in classrooms. Never have we ever had the technology we've had not to have to move, okay? Ironically, the ability to accumulate fat during times of plenty, which was originally thought to confer a benefit, has become a detriment to our health, okay? Research supported by the NIDDK has led to the improved understanding of the factors contributing to this complex condition. So the environment, we talked about the environment, which includes transportation, architectural design, use of land, parks, and public places or spaces. Low cost junk food available everywhere, heavily advertised, especially to children, right? You go into a drugstore or a gas station, and it's just like that row of candy, right as soon as you walk out, and you're like, oh, I'll just get this, I'll just get that, oh, I'll get a couple of these. I've done that. I go to Dick's, and for some reason, I always get like Twizzlers there. I'm like, well, you know, there's the Twizzlers that I like, now out the door, you know? So you know, that's a bad habit, right? So many schools have vending machines and fast food outlets. Whose high school had a vending machine that had, like, you know, chips and all that? Okay, mine did too. We all had that, right? I remember just having cheeseburgers and French fries at almost all my high school lunches because I didn't look at the beans like they looked good. You know, everything kind of looked, you know, and just the food that we were encouraged to eat when we were kids, right? So heavy promotion of activities and products that discourage physical activity, what would be the number one for kids, technology-wise, you think? What do you think?
Video games.
Video games, yeah, right? Video games, right? Just chat all online all day. Who's played video games at night before here? Anyone here? Okay, like all night long into like 2, 3 a.m. Yeah, okay, I've done that before too. So I know what it's like to be a gamer and like get into it and like not sleep and just like stay up all night and then just can't wait to play, you know. So that can get addicting. Sedentary forms of entertainment, right? Netflix, Amazon Prime now, we got Apple has their thing, we got Disney now, we got Hulu, we got all this entertainment now at our fingertips. What's your go-to media?
Probably Instagram.
Instagram? Okay, what about for like movies and shows?
Netflix.
Netflix? What about for you?
That's hard.
What's that?
I said that's hard.
Oh, you have 2 favorites? Or,
It depends on what I'm watching.
Alright,
It
so
depends
what-
on the mood.
okay,
Because
give me
different
some.
things have different stuff.
I will talk about them both.
Okay, well, see, Hulu has like the throwback cartoons. They got all the 90 cartoons on there.
Okay, Hulu has the old school cartoons.
Yeah, Netflix has like a wide variety. Probably Netflix, but Amazon Prime has some good stuff too.
Yeah, okay. Options, what about
No,
anything?
Netflix for the documentaries.
Okay, not Netflix for
Yep,
documentaries?
and Disney Plus for the background noise.
Okay,
Like,
Disney
just
Plus.
something on.
Okay, just for something on?
Disney Plus, all
Netflix.
day.
Disney got all
Netflix for you?
Background noise.
Okay,
Netflix.
Netflix, okay.
I'd say YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't forget YouTube, right? Does anyone make YouTube videos here?
So I'm actually, well, me and my girlfriend, we're starting a channel.
Nice.
Yeah, at like the end of the year holiday type of thing.
Cool, yeah.
Not yet, but
Yeah, it's fun. You be creative. It's social interaction. People comment, that type of thing. I like YouTube. So we have obviously transportation. We talked about that. Lifestyle discourages physical activity, encourages automobile use. So obviously, like if I'm driving to if I'm going to the rec center, sometimes I drive over there. Is that good? Probably not. I should probably walk over there. Neighborhoods without sidewalks discourage walking. Who lives in a neighborhood without sidewalk? Raise your hand. Like you can go outside and there's no sidewalk. So, okay. That's discouraging, right? You go outside, you have to walk on the road to walk, and if you're not going to want to walk on the road. And biking in Wilmington is very dangerous, as if you maybe heard that before. It is very dangerous in Wilmington. There's been a lot of car crashes with bikes. My wife got hit by a car one time when she was riding a bike going across the street here. So she's been, people get hit. She was okay though, but it's not a safe place to really drive your bike around in Wilmington. So I think it's discouraging for bikers, but there are some trails. Does anyone go biking in Wilmington anywhere? No, they do have some trails though that go around. You can go to the parks. You can go to the Carolina State Park. So neighborhoods without sidewalks, tall buildings discourage staircase and encourage elevator and escalator use. So the framework for understanding obesity in children and youth. Really social norms and values, primary and secondary leverage points, such as food and agriculture, education, media, government, right? Government has a say, they subsidize crops, right? And what does that mean? It means that farmers don't have to pay as much to produce certain amounts of corn and soy. They actually get money and subsidy programs to produce corn and soy. So the government can also play a role, right? Education, media, government, public health, healthcare. I think public health is growing as a profession, so I think we'll see more public health input in the future. But right now, who's our biggest public health director? You think Fauci, right? Yeah. So I mean that he obviously has a major role. We have a public health major in this building. So does anyone know any public health majors in this? You do? Are their classes all online or are they
I'm not sure right now.
not face to face? I was always thinking, I was like, why doesn't our public health department set our standards for public health? But I'm sure it's more about university-wide. Healthcare, land use and transportation, leisure, recreation, behavioral settings. You have home, school, and community. That's where you most likely are, right? You're either at your home, a school, obviously we're talking about children, and community, and you're gonna be in and around that environment, right? If you live on a street that you can't play on, or there's no access to any physical activity. So who grew up in a household that you could go outside and play with your friends around the corner? Okay, so we all did, okay? So some people that live in an urban environment or a lower socioeconomic background and don't have access to safe streets or even fields. So who grew up with a safe street or a field that they could just go right by their house? Okay, so that's nice. So that's actually the research would show that most people don't grow up in that environment anymore, but it's good to see that we have here. But I grew up in that environment, go outside. I had friends on my block, right? We play in each other's backyards, we play tag, play ghost in the graveyard, and we were just physically active like all the time. Now, obviously there's video games, there's less physical and social interaction because we are obviously trying to prevent COVID. Okay, so you might not have all that happen this spring, or you might not have seen as much this summer, okay? You have genetic, psychosocial, and other personal factors, food and beverage intake, physical activity, energy intake, energy expenditure, you balance those out, you have energy imbalances, and then you're gonna have obese children and youth. So those are all the factors when understanding obesity in children and youth. So obesity prevention movement, you have science-based for obesity prevention. One is just understanding what obesity is, which I think we've done in this course. And hopefully you're gonna just continue to learn more about it, because it's really not one course that's gonna teach you everything about what childhood obesity is. You're gonna understand that food and beverage industry, they produce a lot of the calories that people intake, right? People love their Starbucks, people love their Monster energy drinks, people love their Red Bulls, people love their sweet tea, right? People love, what's your favorite drink?
Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, okay, no calories in there, but.
I do the Monster sometimes.
You like the Monster?
I just drink a lot of coffee.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Sweet tea.
Sweet tea?
Water.
Water? Okay, I like Sprite. Okay, that's like Sprite or Coca-Cola with popcorn, like movie. I don't know, for some reason, I really like those combos. I drink Zevia. I don't know. I guess I should probably do more research, but that's a 0-calorie sweetened by stevia drink, and that's similar to like my soda drink. So I get Zevia to drink. So I try to prevent those extra calories by doing that, but I don't know how safe it is just to drink that. So I should probably drink more water. But I drink a ton of water throughout the day. You want to drink about half your body weight in ounces. So however much you weigh, divide that in half, and that's how many ounces you should shoot for. But if you're obviously working out and doing a ton of physical activity, you probably want a little bit more. But if you're not working out and you're not moving all day, you probably want a little bit less than that, okay? Other prevention movements, the medical system can have a say. We could have doctors who prescribe prescribe healthier diets to their patients, or maybe get more involved and maybe help prevent, maybe if they could, step in. But a lot of programs, like we know, aren't going to support that until they get a metabolic syndrome where they have a combination of issues. So that could be something that could change in the future. Maybe our medical care will get, I think, more proactive. Hopefully they will. Land use and planning. So just, building buildings all on top of each other and getting rid of parks, that type of thing. So maybe producing land that's going to produce physical activity instead of having land that's going to produce, no physical activity. Media, we talked about active living and healthy eating. So just living an active lifestyle. Every hour, try to get up and do something. So if you're sitting down for an hour, try to get up and move 10, 20 minutes, and then go back to whatever maybe you were doing. So every hour, try to get up and move if you can. I recommend walks. Walking is really important. I don't really prescribe jogging because if you have bad joints, jogging isn't going to be good for your joints. So I would never prescribe someone just go jog around the block as many times as you can. I would say, how about walk more? Okay, go for a 10-minute walk, go for a 15-minute walk, go for a 20-minute walk a little faster, have a little pep to your walk. Okay, I would prescribe that over jogging, or maybe bicycling. That's a little bit lower impact, right? Or I would obviously want people also to learn how to sprint and to run fast. Okay, so jogging is that in between that some strength coaches don't prescribe because a lot of people just jog kind of, you know what I mean? Where if you're running, you have an intent. So you're actually have an intent. You're running a 30-yard dash, a 40-yard dash. You have an intent. So you're actually more engaged with the ground and you're more activated than if you're jogging. Because jogging is like, oh, I just want to get this over with for like 15, 20 minutes. Where that run, you have a goal, right? And why is running important? Because you're chasing or fleeing, right? That's a very basic survival mechanism. You either need to chase something down, right? Somebody has your kid, you're going to go chase them, right? Or if somebody's about to get you, you're going to flee. So you need to know how to chase and flee or run fast. But do I think you need to learn how to jog? Evolutionary speaking, I don't think people were going out and just jogging all around, but I do think that when they were going from one place to another, they were walking fast to save energy and not waste energy. So 3.8 actually is miles per hour that people who are like indigenous to land, that's the pace they walk at, 3.8. So if you can get 3.8, that's basically like if we were to all do like a 100-mile walk, we'd want to go at 3.8 to save energy and save time. Because if you're just walking like this, you have to have a little bit more pep. You're not going to get anywhere. All right, so talk about home and community. Obviously, home is the biggest place, right? For obesity prevention, what's in our cupboards, who's helping us prepare our meals, who's giving us the food, right? It's usually typically the parents. Community, maybe you live in a community that doesn't have fresh fruits and vegetables. Maybe you just have just like gas stations next to your house and you don't have transportation, so you have to go there and get your groceries. Work site, so you might work somewhere where they have a really good buffet across the street. And like every time you go to eat, you're like, oh, I'm going to, that's my favorite buffet. I can't, this is why I'm going to work here. They got my favorite buffet right across the street, right? I mean, anybody like On the Border? Everybody remember On the Border? I used to work there. It used to be in Mayfair. But man, I used to work there and eat there. So I probably gained a little bit of weight there. So sometimes it is your restaurant that you're working at, right? People work in the restaurant industry and they probably tend to eat at work, before, after. Yep.
I worked at Prairie Canyon High School, and we would just like fill up giant sodas, make
Yeah.
every hour, coworkers.
Yeah.
So bad.
I was in the restaurant industry, cooking food, prepping food for over 10 years. So I started, actually 20 years. So from 14 to 28. So about 14 years I was in the restaurant industry. When I was 14, I was flipping burgers and hot dogs and dipping fries and like making potatoes. 16, I started doing pizza and delivery. And then I would just eat pizza and wings like all the time. I was gaining a lot of weight. I just remember gaining a ton of weight because I'd go home with like 20, 30 chicken wings, play video games, right? Go, wake up the next day. But, it could be your work site. So facts, in 1980, about 50% of high school seniors reported eating green vegetables nearly every day or more. By 2003, that figure had dropped to about 30%. So pretty simple that we're just not eating enough fruits and vegetables because they don't taste as good as burgers and fries, right? 77 to 78 and 2000 to 2001, milk consumption decreased by 39% in children ages 6 to 11, while consumption of fruit juices rose 54%. Fruit juice consumption rose 69% and consumption of carbonated soda rose 137%. So between 1977 and 2000, that was really the start of it. So I know sometimes we look at the evidence, we're like, well, how come it doesn't say we're not looking at 2020? Because really, you have to understand what happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s to understand why we're where we're at now. It's not 2010's fault. It's not 2020's fault. It's not 2000's fault. It really started with just it really kind of progressed. 1970, about 25% of total food spending occurred in restaurants. By 1995, 40% of food dollars were spent away from home. So now it's probably reversed because of COVID, right? We're probably eating more in our houses. Between 1970 and 80, the number of fast food outlets in the United States increased from about 30,000 to 140,000, and sales increased from about 300%. In 2001, there were about 222,000 fast food outlets, and children eat nearly twice as many calories at restaurants as they do during a typical meal at home. So just eating out in general is tough, right? So it's gonna add on those extra calories. So if we're always eating out, we're probably gonna be gaining a lot of weight. So eating at home is really gonna be super important. All right, so I got some more facts here, but I wanna kind of keep moving. So action plan for obesity prevention. Gotta have a national public health priority. It has to be a national public health priority. I haven't heard anything from any politician talking about how we need to increase physical activity and increase our social health and to increase our emotional health and to increase that. It's all about how can we really get a vaccine, how can we get better, how can we get therapy, how can, it's never been, how can we get healthier? Because we know that people that are overweight or obese are gonna have a harder time with COVID. But we're not talking about, hey, we need to make this a public health priority. Healthy marketplace and media environments. We need to have healthier marketplace. We have better advertisement, maybe limit fast food or high calorie stuff on TV. Healthy communities can promote that. Okay, healthy school environment can also do that by having healthier options in the vending machines, healthier options at lunch, and then obviously taking it home, eating foods as a family, making foods together, and eating more fruits and vegetables. Okay, tackling obesity. The WHO's 1997 interim report argues that it is not enough to tackle obesity at individual level and that a society-wide public health approach needs to be employed. Okay, obviously we haven't developed that yet because obviously our statistics are still going up. The medical profession should work with food industry to promote a healthier diet for everyone from childhood to adult life. So they would recommend the medical profession should work with the food industry, but I haven't seen that happen. And management of obesity and primary care by a motivated, well-informed, multidisciplinary team could achieve and maintain weight loss by promoting sustainable changes in lifestyle. So again, we talk about primary care physicians and their impact or potential impact on their patients. And maybe in the future that will get better. Policy components, choosing a strategy to change the environment, behavior changes, and best to begin with small changes. So small daily changes are gonna be the most beneficial. So not starting with, I'm gonna just try to lose as much weight as I can this first week. How about daily discoveries? Maybe you usually eat this and then you usually have that for dessert. Maybe you're not gonna have that dessert. So that would be one good positive thing that you could do in that one day. Or maybe you're not gonna get that beverage you usually get. You're gonna save those 250 calories and you're not gonna do that. So just making better decisions, small changes, okay? Adding more fruits and vegetables, maybe not eating a whole potato, maybe having half a potato and adding some broccoli and kale instead of having just a potato for dinner. Okay, I'm talking to myself there. Outcome objectives, primary prevention of weight gain, prevention of further weight gain, weight loss, and prevention of weight regain. So that's our objectives, right? Primary prevention of weight gain, prevention of further weight gain, and weight loss, and prevention of weight regain. So it's not over after someone has lost weight. The struggle is maintaining that. The struggle is having a self-positive image of yourself through that process, but then going out on the other side and then living better and maybe pushing yourself to be better and healthier. Maybe that means you're helping other people and giving yourself more accountability by doing this with somebody else other than yourself. We need to have a national policy. So controlling food imports and food labeling could be one of those things. Maybe controlling the food that we get. and put out there. Just want to see how many we got here left. So we got a couple minutes left. I'm not going to be able to finish the whole PowerPoint today, but if you want to go back and check it out before you watch the video, I would recommend that. We'll just talk about physical activity before we head out. Well, we know physical activity is the umbrella term, right? It can include anything, like household chores, exercise, gardening, yard work, occupational activity. Physical activity and exercise is definitely going to help us achieve weight loss, because if we're building muscle, our body actually spends more calories repairing that muscle. So that's actually going to have a thermic effect of food, right? We're going to have higher metabolism. We're going to build and repair maybe possible joints and tissues that haven't had strength, which is going to cause our body to redevelop cells and even burn more calories. So basically the regenesis of tissue and the maintenance of muscle is actually going to lower our chances of weight gain and also decrease our fat amount. So obviously exercising is important, but working out doesn't mean that you have to just spend 60 minutes a day solely on working out and just sitting the rest of the day. We talked about intermittent or inner changes in your daily routine, getting up, going for walks, going on a ride. What are some of the things that you all do as far as getting up and moving?
When I'm cooking or something, if I'm waiting, I'll do like little things in the kitchen.
Okay, so you're moving around, stepping around, side-stepping. Does anybody have a cat or dog that they kind of play with and move around with? So with my cat, sometimes I play with my cat. I kind of move around because it definitely needs to lose a little bit of weight. So I try to get it moving a little bit. Anything that you try to move around a little bit?
Just always like walking around my apartment.
Okay, just walking around, not just sitting for a long time.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I walk dogs throughout.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're the
All day
walker.
long, walking dogs.
Anything that you like to do?
Yeah, I like to kayak a lot.
You like to kayak?
Yeah.
Nice.
I got one over the summer, so it's like my new thing right now.
Awesome. What about for you?
I go on walks.
Go on walks. Okay. So it's just finding what the person likes to do and just having them do that more, obviously. And obviously half of that battle is what we intake and what we eat. So really preventing obesity starts with the individual, the community, and then goes out into the state and the federal. But as a clinician or phys ed teacher or a health profession, we're primarily going to be looking at children, teens, and maybe adults and colleagues our age. So helping them, promote healthy lifestyle changes is going to take more than just coaching. It's going to take accountability. It's going to take positive attitude and a better social network. And as you read in that article, if you don't have that social network or fabric, it's going to be harder for you to gain the confidence to change. So taking on all those things in consideration when preventing obesity. If you want to check out the other slides later on, you may, but that's going to be it for today, everyone. If you have any questions or want to hang out after, feel free. Other than that, you are all set, all right? So we'll see you all next week. If not next week, we'll see your presentations online, okay?